Hello guys, this is Mike from Deathless Gaming. Tonight I'm going to be talking about the IRNV optics, or the thermal optics for Planetside 2. I've got it equipped on the Rhino, and you really want to have it equipped on a Rhino or something with manageable recoil, which I will talk about later for those reasons. So what are IRNV optics? They're basically thermal optics for Planetside 2, and that's what I'm going to reference throughout this tutorial. A quick note, this gameplay is just so that you're looking at something while I talk about these optics, and sometimes for visual purposes, but really not that much. So, what are thermal optics in Planetside 2? They basically illuminate the body of a player when you use it, just like real thermal optics do. When you aim it at a person, everything else will show a little clearish blackish color, and then you'll see the player, as you're about to see in the gameplay, be illuminated in total white, and you can very clearly distinguish the head and the body, and that's one of the benefits of these. So when do you use these? Sadly, so they don't become extremely overpowered, they only render people within 100 yards so that you can clearly see them. At past 100 yards, it all goes black. As you can see, I can very clearly see that player in the background. And depending on graphics card settings, this can change, but I'm not going to go into that. You really want to use this close quarters, amp stations, biolabs, that kind of thing, but make sure you're within 100 yards. One of the dangers is getting bowling alley vision. As you'll see, I'll totally ignore what my surroundings are, and I'll get shot by that player. You really, before you fire and use these optics, either be surrounded by friendlies or know what your surroundings are, because you can easily get bowling alley vision with this optic, and it really hurts you, and it can really disrupt your gameplay. So let's talk about aiming. The reason I'm using the Rhino is because it's kind of a little bit like a VS gun, and it has really manageable recoil on lots of ammo, and that's what really excels with these optics. You really want to be able to manage your recoil, because these optics clearly illuminate the head, and when they clearly illuminate the head, you can just shoot straight for it, and that head will just immediately be gone. You can really easily get headshots. If you have something like the Carve and you're having trouble managing the recoil, then just aim for the upper body, but this really is a headhunter optic in close quarters. Another thing to note is as you see, I went really close up to that infiltrator when I shot him. At that distance, you really just want to switch to hip firing. Past a certain distance, you're going to get bowling alley vision when you get that close, and you're going to have to use a hip fire method. That's also why I chose the T16 Rhino, because it can be really good in hip firing and much more manageable than the other guns. So you really do want to use this in close quarters. For the NC, it's kind of hard for me to recommend this optic, because your guns really won't perform this well with this optic. So if you're NC, I wouldn't highly recommend it due to the fact that your recoil on your guns is so large. If you're using it in close quarters to a point where your recoil is manageable for the body, it can be extremely helpful. But besides that, it really does. The benefits kind of don't really outweigh the cost, since the NC, when they use 2x sights, really excel with that, since they have high recoil. Another thing to note is, if you're VS, this optic is for you on most of the heavy guns. The VS, all LMGs all have very manageable recoil, and this is going to be really easily. For the TR, I suggest this optic as well for some of the guns, like the T16 Rhino and other guns that have manageable recoil. Besides that, I really think it won't really perform with you on weapons like the Carve and TMG. That's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comments. If I left anything out, please mention them. If there's any way I can improve this video, please also tell me. Support their channel by clicking on ads.